Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Pat from Texas Freshwater Fly Fishing again. Back at you with another Tuesday tie here, and today we're going to be tying up a bass hook bait fish. It's a great fly. It's easy to tie. You can fish it fast. You can fish it slow. You can tie it up in all sorts of different color combinations to mimic different shad, to mimic different sunfish, kind of like this one. But today we're going to tie it up in a little bit lighter sunfish pattern than this. And I think you're really going to enjoy it. I think you're going to be able to go catch some fish with it. Remember, if you're liking these videos, be sure you like this one, hit that like button, share it with your friends, subscribe to the videos. It really helps me out. And if you want more information, check out texasfreshwaterflyfishing.com. But here we go. Let's tie up this bass hook bait. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get to tying this. We're going to tie this fly on a soft plastic style bass hook. This one's a little bit smaller. I think it's actually a size 1. I don't really know. It doesn't matter. You just grab whatever size you want to tie it on. Don't be too particular. Bait fish come in all different sizes. And like I said, we're going to tie it up in a lighter colored sunfish pattern today. But the first thing we want to do is lay down a thread base, right? So we're going to take our thread, lay down the thread base. There's a real small area for you to actually tie on here, and what's going to end up wanting to happen is your material is going to want to slide down the shank, and that's okay if it slides down a little bit, but what I like to try to do is build up a little bit of a bump of thread right here. That'll help prevent some of that material from really sliding down the hook. All right, so we got that thread base, a little bump of thread right there. And the next thing we're going to want to do is tie in the body and the tail of the fly. Sometimes I'll tie some hackle feathers in there as a tail that sticks out. We're going to tie a few of those in today. Sometimes I leave those out. So just grab yourself a few feathers that you want. Sometimes I like the ones that are a little bit fatter. It's really up to you what you want it to do. But just grab 2 of them. And we'll stack them together. Figure out how long you want to tie that in. I think I want my tail about that long. Trim it up a little bit. And then to reduce some of the amount of material that we're going to tie on this fly, I just kind of strip them down a little bit. Not too much. All right, so we'll take these and we'll tie them onto the hook right here. And that's it. Okay, there's your tail, right? Then for the body, depending on what color variation you want to go with or anything like that, you can use a white, you can use just straight olive. That's what I did here on this fly, an olive body. But I'm going to use this kind of beige marabou right here. So we're going to take a little bit of that marabou, the beige marabou. Don't want to use too much. And then you want it to be about just a little bit shorter than the tail, almost the length of the tail when you tie it in. So go ahead and get it cleaned up. The cleaner you can keep the head of the fly right here, the easier it's going to be to tie, because there is such a small tying area, so you got to be a little bit careful. But we're going to take this, and I almost try to push it on either side of those tail feathers. We'll take it and we're gonna take a few wraps to tie it in right there. All right, there we go. So now you have a body, you got a tail, and now we're gonna tie on the top of the fly. Most bait fish you see, including sunfish, tend to get darker towards the top of them. So we're gonna go ahead, and I like to tie in a little bit of olive on top. You don't have to. You can use the same color. You can vary it whatever color you want to vary. Just take a little bit of your marabou. It does not have to be super nice or super quality. I'm not picky on these flies. I don't think the bass are picky either. So you just take a chunk, a little bit less than what you used for the body. And we want it to be just a little bit shorter than what we used for the body too. Again, kind of clean it up. The cleaner you can keep the head of the fly while we're tying it, the better it's going to be for you. So we'll just take that, tie it in right there on top. A few wraps to tie it in. and then kind of clean up everything, push it back right there. Lay everything down like you want it. All right, so you got that there. Now we got a body, we got a tail, we got the top of the fly. A lot of bait fish you see, a lot of sunfish especially, will start getting orange on their chest. I think that orange is a real good trigger for bass. And so I like to tie that onto the chest of my flies too when I'm tying this fly. But you don't want much. I just take a few little small strands of orange. You can vary it. Sometimes throughout the year there's a lot more orange. Some different species have a lot more orange. So whatever you're trying to mimic, you can add that. I'm just tying an early spring pattern. I don't like as much orange on there, but I still put a little. And so you just take a few strands. I kind of try to split it around that hook, right? And we're going to tie it in on the bottom of the fly. So we figure out how long you want it there. I like it a little bit shorter than where I went with the back. And then a couple wraps to tie that in. Okay, at this point, I like to clean up things a little bit. Just a little bit, trim up that marabou. Okay, a little bit, and then I'll take a few wraps to just kind of put everything down, clean it up a little bit more, hold it on tight. Okay, so there you go. There's the basic body and tail of this fly. Now what we do, I like to put in a little bit of flash at this point. And I'll use this Chartreuse crystal flash. You kind of see it here, Chartreuse crystal flash. I take 2 strands, double them over. So really kind of like holding 4 strands in your hand. I'll take my crystal flash and I'll tie it in just about the length of my tail feathers. Okay, so I'll try to line that up there as best I can. Take a couple wraps to tie in one side. Take my crystal flash, fold it over to the other side. Couple wraps to hold that down. Now I'll take it, make sure I try to trim it to about the same length on both sides. All right, get a little bit of flash in there to go with it. Now we're gonna add some more body to the fly. And what I like to tie in here is some bucktail. Here I got this light blue bucktail that I'm gonna use today. Sometimes I'll go with this lavender bucktail. You can tie in olive, whatever color pattern you're gonna go with. But I like to tie in just a few strands of this light blue bucktail. And when I say a few strands, you just want to tie in like maybe 6 or 7 strands on each side. So you'll take it and you want it to run about as long as your marabou, and hold it on one side and make a few wraps to hold that in place. Okay. Try to lay it down as flat as you can to splay it out. If it ends up just being a streak of a line, that's okay. Don't be too picky with it. But just lay that down and then do the same thing on the other side. Just a few little strands, clean it out, lay it down to the same spot. If you want to, if you notice your hairs are kind of really varied in length, you can try to stack them a little bit with your fingers. One thing I like to try to do, it kind of helps out, if you flatten it out and try not to have it in a bunch, it splays those hairs out a little bit more, so it kind of is less likely to streak on you on the side of the fly there. And then go ahead and tie those in on the other side, so you have a little bit of blue or lavender or whatever you choose to tie in on both sides. Okay, then a little bit more color. I have this Chartreuse colored bucktail. Don't be picky about which strands you choose, but same thing, man. Just a few little strands, right? Kind of flatten it out a little bit. If some of your strands are a little bit longer, you can pull those out. And the same length, and we're just going to tie it right on top of that blue. Just add a little bit more color. Get a little bit more of a reaction strike out of these fish sometimes, I think. Okay, a few wraps to hold that down. Do the same thing on the other side. Just take a couple wraps or a couple strands of your chartreuse. Tie those down. Right there on top. Okay. Once you have all that wrapped up, we're gonna start kind of cleaning up this bucktail. Before I do that, I try to get a couple real good tight wraps on there. Sometimes when you start trimming that bucktail, it'll start moving and really just turn into streaks on either side, which again, that's okay, but I try to make it splayed out a little bit more. And the last thing I put in is just some natural colored Peacock Curl. And depending on how dark I want the fly, everything's a little bit different. I'll tie more pieces in if I need to or whatever. But I'll take 3 strands, 2 or 3 strands, just varies, depends. Lay them right on top, about the same length as your marabou, maybe a little bit shorter. I think this Peacock Curl with that kind of green flashiness to it adds just that little elements of a little bit more natural coloring that really helps fish strike. And then sometimes I'll double it over, so I'll put on 3 strands, cut it, and then tie it on again. So I actually have 6 strands sticking out the top right now. Trim it up, and then all we got to do is tie everything in, clean it up, and make a nice little pretty head on the fly here. Doesn't have to be perfect. I just try to lay it down, smooth it out. The smoother you can get it here, usually the better. Whip finish. I usually go with a few of them, you know that. Trim up the string, or your thread, get some fly head cement, put that on there nice and good, let it work into that thread. There's a whole lot of thread here, so I like to put on a real thin fly head cement right here. It kind of soaks into the threads a whole lot better. And then we're just gonna let that sit and dry. At this point, you can be done. You can call it done. This could be your fly. But I'm gonna come back later on once that fly head cement dries, and I'm going to put on some eyes. All right, we'll be back in a minute to put those eyes on. All right, so we're back. The head cement has dried on there, or at least the first round of it has dried on you. That's the fly we have so far. Again, like I said, you can call that fly done and fish it, and I have many and many times. In fact, that's how I started. But I'm gonna go ahead and put some eyes on it today and show y'all what that looks like. So I'll usually just take a little bit of super glue and just put a dab on the side. Get the eye you want to use. There's all different sizes and colors and everything else. And just drop it on top. Okay. Push that down. You can see that one. Flip it over. Do the same thing. Kind of push it down. There you go. So I got my 2 eyes on there. Both sides, same spot. Let that super glue dry, and then I'll come back on and I put on a little bit thicker head cement then again on top of all of it. But that's where we are right now. So we're gonna let that dry, come back, put that head cement on in just a minute. All right, so that super glue has dried on, the eyes are in place. Now I come in, I'll usually use a little bit thicker fly head cement now on top of this. This one I already mixed in some like green pearlescent glitter basically from Loon. And I kind of like the way it shimmers and looks when you put it on. So you'll just take it, put a little bit on, clean everything up, top and bottom. There we go. Make sure you let that dry. But that's it right there. There's your bass hook bait fish. Hope you go tie it up. Have a lot of luck with it. Go fish it. Guys, you're really gonna like it. Be sure you check out TexasFreshwaterFlyFishing.com for more information on this fly and all sorts of other stuff. Be sure you like, subscribe, share these videos, guys. It helps me out. Thanks a lot, and I'll see y'all back for another Tuesday tie. Later.